And welcome in Out of Bounds here on 1037 The Buzz. Appreciate everybody listening in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. John Nabors, Joe Franklin, broadcasting live from the Hoggs Meat Market Studios with you today. And thank you as always for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday as we got plenty of things to dive into today because not only are we going to be joined by Pat Bradley, thanks to Motorsports Authority, in the 2 o'clock hour, we're also going to have a very special guest here on the show, Gage Wood. That's right, Gage Wood, the Razorback closing pitcher, who is a guy that's really come along as the season has come along, and he has a big personality, having a lot of fun from the great city of Batesville. He's going to join us, and we're going to talk to him about his season and also maybe some of his hobbies on and off the field. So have some fun with him, too. We'll have some Razorback baseball tickets to give away for this weekend series. As we know, Arkansas and South Carolina will be facing off, and it will be the last regular season series in Baum-Walker Stadium, and we got some tickets for Sunday's game. So we'll give you some information on how to win those tickets, too. We'll get into all the topics that we want to try to get into. And, of course, we want to hear from you. 501-661-1037 is that number to call or text in. You can get after us in the Asher Record Live fan feedback. After me on Twitter, @BuzzJohnNeighbors. And we're keeping it moving. As a reminder, too, we're doing video streaming now as well. So be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube at 1037 The Buzz. You'll be able to chance to see some of the new cool stuff that we got going on as well. But yeah, it's getting to the point to where having a lot of fun, and it's exciting for a lot of basketball reasons, too, for college and for pro. And that's why it'll be fun to have Pat Bradley on. And I wonder if he's sharing the same sentiments that I am about the Celtics and their absolutely awful performance last night. That was not a very encouraging thing to be down now at home 3-2 in a series against the Philadelphia 76ers.
Well, it started with game one, Joel Embiid being out. Celtics dropped that one. The Sixers, for the most part, have outplayed the Celtics in this series. And, not many people ever want to give credit to the team that is actually winning. But going into this series, there was a thought that these teams were really close. The Sixers may have been the better team, but nobody wanted to say that from the start. But seems like the way it's playing out, they may be the better team. Now, this doesn't mean the Celtics are done because you have 2 games left here, possibly, and they have to find a way to get it done in Philly, which they've already done, and then get back home for Game 7 if they can get through that.
That's right, because we know that with these games, it can turn on a dime. We've seen teams come back from being down 3-2, even down 3-1. It happens. So it's just something to where, home court matters, and you never want to see a performance like that, no matter if you're a Celtics fan or, just a basketball fan in general. I want it to go to 7 games for obvious reasons, but still a little frustrating game that transpired there. But we'll talk about that, I know, with Pat Bradley and have some fun with that, too. And also, we'll dive into a lot of other things as well. And, of course, the big news from Arkansas, which I know we'll talk to PB about, was the return, of Mekhi Mitchell. And he announcing via his social media page on Instagram that he's coming back. He even had a cool little graphic that was put out there where he was all excited about it. In fact, his Instagram handle is That's Kai. And it just said
cool signature too.
Yeah. I was like, man, it's better than mine.
Is that his, or is that the university that came up with that signature? But if it's his, man, it's a really nice looking signature.
It's pretty. I like it. I wish I had that type of penmanship as far as my signature goes. But yeah, they had the signature as he's standing on it. Kind of, it's like a white out there, but he's standing on his own signature and he's pointing at the camera while dribbling the ball and says, "I'm back," is what it says in the graphic. And then in his caption for that says, "Hog Nation, let's run it back. #WPS," which is wild because, how many times we talk about, we're waiting on what Mekhi Mitchell's going to be doing. We're waiting on what this type of thing he's going to see, if he's going to join his brother into the transfer portal, because they've been joined at the hip pretty much their entire lives when it comes to their basketball career. But he announces that he is indeed coming back, which I think from at least the social media responses, people were really excited about. They're like, okay, we saw what Mekhi gave us. He was a player that played in all 36 games last year. He was only one of 4 players to do so. He started in 31. So everybody was pretty excited about it, even so much so that the Razorback basketball official Instagram account also put out a graphic, which, as we talked about, they only did that for Brazil. They only did that for Graham. and now they did it for Makai.
That means it's official.
It is, except the fact that Arkansas Razorback basketball deleted the post.
Oh, did they?
They did.
Okay.
So,
well, then take it back. It's unofficial.
I saw that, and then, like, this was something I was having, like, I was looking at it, and because as soon as he posted it, I screenshotted it still. I was like, okay, I want to screenshot this, and, just in case something happens or whatnot. But I mean, they literally put a post up where it just says he's back and says post presence returning to Bud Walton Arena. Like, that's it. That's official. And probably 15 minutes later, it's deleted. And so that really charged up everyone's questions of like, okay,
They still have moves to make.
yeah, like that. I mean, it has to be. I would understand if maybe there was like a typo and stuff, deleted it and then reposted it. That would make sense. But they didn't do that either. It's still not there. So it's got people now considering, or at least wondering, okay, so what does this mean? And is this a problem, or does it mean that they thought about him coming back, but then something happened in the 0 hour that said, oh no, wait, this guy actually might be coming in? I'm not totally sure, but it's certainly something that seems pretty controversial right now, where his post is still up. He still says he's coming back, but when the Razorbacks delete their account, or at least their post about it, that makes you wonder if what's going on behind the scenes for something like that. So
yeah, there's always something going on behind the scenes. We know that with some of the players who have announced that they were going to return, and then we know that things change. So we know that Arkansas is still active in the transfer portal, so there can be more moves to come, and that's kind of where we are right now.
Well, it's definitely something to keep our eye on, and maybe something will change as the day goes on. Maybe they'll repost it or something, or maybe they'll leave it alone. But I don't know. I feel like it's kind of I don't want to say it's unfair necessarily, but it is a little odd. It's a little odd for that, and I think that there's a lot of reasons for people to be concerned about it. I feel like that would be a really bad look, or at least a bad move, where you post about it, but then you delete it, then you actually tell them to transfer, and maybe there's a miscommunication somewhere, or maybe there was one, Makai said something about it, and then some intern posted. I don't know. Like, I really don't know. But honestly,
kind of makes you wonder, leaving everybody in limbo.
Right. Yeah.
Not knowing exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way it's been the entire time, because we're always speculating on who's coming in, what kind of moves are they going to make with the roster, what's the roster really going to look like, because even some of the players that are coming in, they're still in the NBA draft, even though they've committed to Arkansas. So there's a lot of questions there, a lot of things that are still up in the air.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if anybody has a response to this, or again, if there's something that comes out from it. But I believe if Makai Mitchell comes back, I think it's good. I think it's a good thing. I don't see it as a negative. I don't see it as some sort of hindrance to the team or anything like that. But if there's somebody out there that they're still trying to, whether it's that Grant Nelson kid, or if it's a Ron Holland, and maybe they said, okay, well, we're starting to see that maybe Devo and Walsh are coming back. I don't know. Again, there's so many things that could be going on, but I would, no matter what happens, here's what I'm trying to say. No matter what happens, if Makai comes back, I'm fine with it. Like, I'm fine with Makai coming back. He had a lot of good games this year. I think he was a solid player. There was a lot of times where he helped the team out tremendously. I thought in the postseason, he was huge for them and had some big time plays, especially in the game against Kansas. So if he comes back, I'm all for it. But if we know how these roster moves are made, and you know how they get flushed around a little bit, it's kind of just it's almost like, hey, you never know until you actually know whether or not you still have a spot on the team or not.
If they feel like they can upgrade in any sense at any position, then that's what they're going to look into. They're still trying to evaluate, manage the roster, and that may be some of the factors that go into it.
So, by the way, we had a text on First Arkansas Bank Trust text line from the 501 asking who we were discussing. It's Makai Mitchell. Makai Mitchell had a post. He posted his own graphic saying he's coming back. Then the Razorback basketball Instagram account posted that he's coming back, but they deleted theirs afterwards. Makai still has his up. So that's what we're discussing on that. So we'll have to wait and see. And again, we'll talk with Pat Bradley about that. And of course, we'll get your thoughts and opinions on it. 501-661-1037. But also in some cool news, speaking of Razorback basketball, 4 players from the Razorback basketball team officially invited to the NBA Combine, NBA Draft Combine, which is incredible, because we knew, of course, Anthony Black, Nick Smith, those guys are for sure going to get invited. Ricky Council being the other one getting invited, and Jordan Walsh, the other player that they're waiting on.
We knew he would get invited also.
Oh, yeah. So you got those 4 guys that are going to be and not to say that all four of them are going to be drafted, but they did get the invite. Devo Davis was one that did not get the invite to the NBA draft combine. So I still believe, and with those two guys between Walsh and Devo, that one of them comes back. I truly believe that. I don't think both of them do. And in fact, if I had to get, if it was like between if two of them come back or none of them come back, which my leaning, I'd say zero. Like I feel like none of them are coming back is a more likely scenario. But still, I think that you're doing the right thing by trying to test out the waters. I think Arkansas gets 3 drafted. I think that at least they get 3 drafted. I think Nick Smith, Anthony Black, as well as Ricky Council gets drafted. And who knows? Like that's what's kind of the point of this whole, or one of the points of the whole NBA draft combine is let's see what they got. Who knows? Maybe Jordan Walsh goes in there and presses some people, gets some things going. Hey, we like this guy's upside. Maybe he works his way up to being a draft pick too. So you're going to have 3, but you could have potentially 4 as well.
Yeah, and it's like the NFL Combine. They invite 300 to the NFL Combine. They only have about 260 draft picks. So with the NBA, it's usually 60, but this year a couple of teams have forfeited their picks, so it's 58. They have 78 that are going to the draft combine. So you're talking 20 players there that attend the combine that won't get drafted.
So do you think so is there any players
At least 20.
Okay, yeah, because I was about to say, do you think that there'll be any players that aren't going to the combine but that will still get drafted?
Yeah, number one overall pick, Victor Wembanyama.
He was the one that I thought about, but I didn't know if there was like more than if there was some other maybe some international players or somebody like that.
Yeah, there'll be some international players that don't go to the NBA draft combine that get drafted.
Yeah. When's the lottery for the NBA?
It's coming up soon. Matter of fact, it came to mind the other night, and just thinking that we possibly missed it. They were having the NHL draft lottery just a couple of nights ago, and so you turn on TV and you see draft lottery, and it's taking place right after Sports Center, and so it's like, hold on now, did that sneak up on us where the NBA draft lottery is coming about, and they're making the announcement it was the NHL draft lottery.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
Chicago Blackhawks got the number 1 overall pick.
Oh, there you go. Well, Christian Weaver just popped in and said next Tuesday, I guess, is when the lottery is for the NBA.
There it is.
Yeah, I figured if anybody would know, it'd definitely be Christian. So I guess we'll wait and see and see how the mock drafts look, because I know a lot of people are feeling good about at least one Razorback going in the top 10, and that's Anthony Black. But we have a lot more to discuss. We want to hear from you on a wide open Wednesday. 501-661-1037 is that number to call or text in. Get after us in the Asher Record Live fan feedback as well. What do you think about Mekhi Mitchell and his coming back, kind of, or is he actually coming back? Don't really know, but we'll talk about that and a lot more coming up next here on Out of Bounds. Stay with us. It's out of bounds here on a wide open Wednesday. And folks, we know with all the sports going on right now, you need to make some money on these sports with the Bet Saracen app. And we love using Bet Saracen, and not only on their app, but also on their website at betsaracen.com, because you can bet on so many different things, not only on the national scale of sports, but also the local scale of sports. Like, for instance, you got the Jackson State Tigers taking on UAPB today. How about that? You can bet on that. Or let's get some craziness going on, because actually later in the show, Stephen Davis, the voice of the Arkansas Travelers, is going to be joining us in the 3 o'clock hour as well. But hey, if you want to bet on the Northwest Arkansas Naturals versus the Arkansas Travelers, little battle of the natural state, you can do that on Bet Saracen. How about the NBA? Got the playoffs going on. You can bet on it. The specials, you can bet on it. MLB, you can bet on it. NHL, you can bet on. You can bet on it all with Bet Saracen. And the best thing about it is it's an app that is so easy to navigate. You get your payouts instantly. You can withdraw. You can put in money. It's a very simple process to do. There's a reason why they are killing it in the sports gambling side of things in this state, and nobody's even close, because they are the best. So download the app today at BetSaracen.com, and go to BetSaracen.com. You can bet that way too, but start making some money. You're going to start watching these games, so start making some money on it as well with the Bet Saracen app. We were talking a little bit about Arkansas basketball and some of the questions that start coming in on our First Arkansas Bank and Trust text line. From the 501 says, can a player walk on and get enough extra cash to pay for his college? I feel like this gets asked a lot. And
it's possible, but with the era of NIL. But if you have a player that is scholarship worthy, they're getting that scholarship as opposed to walking on. Now, let's say the roster is overfilled with scholarships, and then you wanted a player to come in to just take the NIL money to pay for schooling. Yeah, that could happen, but that's not a likely scenario that's going to happen.
No, in fact, because I started thinking about it, if you have a player that you're like, we'll just say basketball, college basketball, for instance. If you have a player, they're like, hey, I don't have a scholarship for you, but we'll pay you an NIL to where you can pay for your scholarship. Like, first off, most of the time, players that aren't going to be contributing to the team, like, you're not going to just give them a walk-on spot. You'll give them a scholarship spot. And if you didn't, they're kind of going to be like, so what, you got 13 guys in front of me that you feel like are more worthy of a scholarship than me. So where's my role going to be? Like, how am I going to play? So I think that, yes, in theory, you could do it, but I don't think anybody's going to do that.
No,
like,
nobody would probably accept those terms simply because NIL is extra money that's coming in. And if your NIL is having to be used towards scholarship and towards tuition, then it doesn't really work.
Yeah, it's like, what's the point of it then? It's like, what am I getting out of this? Which I guess you get a scholarship and all that, but yeah, it sounds good in theory, but I just don't see that happening, because NIL, to be honest, is something, and I'm not trying to take a side of anybody, but NIL is when people pay into it, there's value that gets returned. And so, whether it's when we have, guests on here on our shows on 103.7 The Buzz, like, we get to talk to those players personally and they get money into their pocket. Like, there's a transaction, there's value in it. But when it comes to just paying a player to be a walk-on and here's your scholarship money, it's like, really, what is that player getting when they could go to a different school and probably get a full scholarship? It's like, it's just about the value and weighing the options.
It would have to be an extreme case where you have a really talented player that says, well, I'm going to be here for 1 year, and you can't go straight to the NBA. You have to do one and done. You have to spend at least a year out of high school somewhere, and they decide to go the college route, don't have a scholarship for them, and they say, well, we'd accept that NIL money as opposed to the scholarship because we're in need of being somewhere and playing some basketball right now. But that's not happening.
The only way I could see it maybe possibly working would be in baseball, like, because you don't have full scholarships in that. So if it was like, hey, you come here, we'll pay, this much of your scholarship, but we'll give you NIL to pay for the full thing. And, maybe something like that I could see, or in softball. But, overall, when it comes to football and basketball, both, yeah, that's not going to happen. Let's go to the phone lines. Brent's in Stuttgart. What's up, Brent?
What's up, Omniscient One?
What's up, Brent?
Hey, John, I just saw your Locked On Razorback. Just finished it a few minutes ago. Got a question for you. You ready for it?
I'm ready for you, man.
I believe that the Razorbacks know that either Devo or Jordan Walsh is going to stay in the draft.
Okay. You saying that's maybe why the Mackay thing happened, or are you just saying in general?
No, I'm saying they're still, they've got to have a scholarship for Ron Holland, correct?
Correct, yes.
And I believe that's the piece right there. One of them's going to be either both or one of them is going to be stay in the draft.
I think that's fair. I think there's a good chance that does happen, but you're for sure not getting both of them back. And I think even getting one back, I still believe would be not a stretch, but still, if I was leaning towards, I still think both of them would end up leaving. But one's definitely more likely than two.
Which one do you think is the most likely to stay if anybody stays?
Between the two of them, between Walsh and Devo,
yeah, right?
Jordan Walsh.
Yeah, I'd say the same.
Yeah, because Devo, he's played enough ball at Arkansas. It's time to move on. And that's not to say that he couldn't return, but yeah, he's put enough film out there, and it's probably time to take that next step.
Yeah, and plus Walsh, with the position he plays, there would be probably a little bit more of a need of that position because of how many guards Arkansas has gotten out of the transfer portal. And it's not to say Devo wouldn't play; he would absolutely, but just the type of player Walsh is, I feel like there may be a bigger need for Arkansas than would be for Devo's position.
Okay, thank you.
All right, no problem. Thank you, Brent. Appreciate you calling in. Yeah, and it's like, it's not to say that one's better than the other, or like, oh, that means that Devo's drafting Walsh isn't going to be. No, it's not that, because again, I still believe that Walsh is absolutely capable of getting drafted. It's just a matter of him showing out in the combine. But I'm with Joe. Like, Devo's been here for so many years, and it's like, hey, he's accomplished what he needed to accomplish. He's done so many great things, and it's time for him to take that next step in his career too. So, but if either of them decide to come back, I would love it. Like, I would be absolutely all in favor of them coming back. But I also understand that, hey, when you're playing basketball in college for a certain amount of time, sometimes you just want to get started on the next step in your career too.
Does Devo want to return to a roster and do it all over again? The same type of deal that he just did last year, where you're playing with all these new players. Probably not going to speak for him, but
right.
It doesn't make a lot of sense in the big picture.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is just this is the turnover of the roster for someone like Devo, who's been kind of the big constant there for the past few years for Muss in Arkansas. He's handled it well, but I'm sure that there's, like, as we've seen each year, probably some struggles that come with it or frustrations that come with it. Not just saying from Devo's perspective, but just from coaching staff and from everybody on the team, where it's like, man, we got so much talent. We just got to figure out how to make it work. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of time, which comes along with some ups and downs. So, but yeah, I think, again, I was like you said, I don't want to speak for Devo, but man, I think that Devo moving on with his career and going to play pro, whether it's NBA or wherever, I think that would be a great thing for him, and he would make good money doing it, and he'd be a fine player. And who knows, maybe in developing and all that, he'd find a spot to get on an NBA roster one day. So I just feel like he's trying to move on, but we'll see.
And there are other opportunities other than the NBA Combine where he can be seen by scouts, and scouts have already seen Devo in games over the past couple of seasons. So even though he's not going to the draft combine, there are other opportunities to get in front of these scouts, and Devo, he'll have a chance to showcase what he has.
I should know this. Is there kind of like a pro day thing that they do for basketball, similar to what they do with like the NFL, where you can have like hosting things at your college campus where scouts can come around? Is there something like that?
Not for colleges, but they do play other games. Portsmouth Invitational, that's always a big one that they play, where players go there and they just kind of showcase their skills for a few days. But with the NBA draft combine, that may be something that kind of, I don't know if it went away, but maybe it was replaced in a sense by the draft combine, because that was always the big one, even though there were a few more out there that players would travel around to different areas and play for scouts in certain areas.
By the way, I thought this was a funny stat too. Speaking of Arkansas and the NBA Combine, so since 2015, Arkansas has had 10 players invited to the NBA Combine. 4 of them were this past year, so nearly half of them were able to get the invite. The other ones was Jalen Williams, Moses Moody, Isaiah Joe, Mason Jones, Jalen Barford, and Daniel Gafford. Which I actually forgot about Barford. I didn't realize he did get the invite to the NBA draft combine. So knew the other ones did, but yeah, Barford was one of those that was able to jump right in there in the mix too. So. But yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. And if you check out the NBA draft room, which everybody does mock drafts and whatnot, but they have Anthony Black, Nick Smith, Jordan Walsh, and Ricky Council as the 9th, 24th, 37th, and 39th picks. So they have all 4 Razorbacks getting drafted in their NBA draft mock draft, and I've seen other ones too that have only 2 Razorbacks getting drafted. So it's just. Again, you never really know, and that's what the combine's for, to figure out and get through some of those things there too. So
the Portsmouth Invitational, they also have a list of players who attended there, and they were drafted by NBA teams. One that's on this list, a notable one that you probably would know, Jimmy Butler.
I've heard of him.
He attended there, and so there's a long list of players that maybe they were second rounders and maybe went later in the draft, but one that stands out is Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. So yeah, there's other options there too to get seen and whatnot. And I know that I'm sure that there's scouts and people that I'm sure will call Muss and talk to the coaching staff there of any particular player that they have. Which, by the way, I saw Muss is hanging out over in LA. He went to the Angels game the other day, and of course he's really good friends with the manager there at the Angels because he actually came to see a Razorback basketball game. So I thought that was pretty cool. But Muss is always out there doing things, living it up. But I'm sure going through trying to get some recruiting and trying to get some things done too while he's out there checking it out.
He said he's really good friends with the Angels manager, and he said that he's even been to some games in Fayetteville, so they kind of go and check out each other's games whenever they get a chance to and travel around. Derek Fisher is another guy that was at the Portsmouth Invitational that he really showcased his skills there, and but that was before the days of the NBA draft combine. But just a host of players there that are listed as some of the notables that really stood out, and they submitted their NBA draft position by going to the Portsmouth Invitational.
Okay, there you go. By the way, Phil Nevin, I couldn't think of his name. Phil Nevin, the manager of the Angels, who Muss is friends with, because apparently they both were coaching in Reno when Muss was at Nevada, and Phil Nevin was the manager there for I guess, what was it? I'm trying to see where the what was it called? It was the minor league team, but still he was the coach there, whatever the Reno team is, and so that's where they ended up getting their friendship. Because I remember seeing Phil Nevin at a Razorback basketball game in Fayetteville, and I'm like, this is weird. Like, all randomness, but hey, it all connects. Muss knows a lot of random people, it seems like. So but yeah. Also on Twitter, this comes from Pitt. He says, guys, I love the fact that we're getting so many players invited to the NBA draft combine. The question will be, how many of these guys do you think get drafted? And also, how many of them actually go in the first round?
Okay, that can be 2 different things. I think all 4 of these guys can get drafted, 2 in the first, 2 in the second.
That's fair. I was about to say the same thing. Yeah, I'd say Anthony Black will be the first one taken. I think he's a top 10 pick. And Nick Smith could be too, but I still think he's a first round regardless. And then I think Council, and then I think Walsh after that. So that would be, I don't think it'd be the record of most Razorback players taken in a single NBA draft. I think they've had 5 in 1 year, but it would certainly be the most they've had in recent history for sure. It's been a long time that they've had, because I can't even remember the last time they had multiple draft picks in the NBA, much less 4 of them. So it's been quite a minute. And that would be something that they can really hold their hat on there too. So also, speaking of which, I know this is something we were going to discuss there too, and had some people asking about it with Hunter Dickinson. So it's so funny to me in college basketball and just college sports that the NIL still shocks some people. But Hunter Dickinson, of course, going to Kansas, was on his podcast, and he was talking about things that were going on with the process of where he was going to go to school. It's the Round Ball podcast, and he said, quote, "The people hating on me would leave their job right now for $10,000 of an increase. I got at Michigan less than 6 figures. I got less than 6 figures at Michigan for the entire year." And he says that it did play a role and his decision to go to Kansas was NIL.
So people are reading into that wrong. They're trying to beat him up over the fact that he's saying he only got a certain amount of money. He was just trying to make the point that he moved on and that, NIL did play into it, and that he was trying to draw the line and make the comparison that people that are the same people that are being critical of him would leave their current job for a $10,000 increase anywhere else.
Yeah, see, and that's how I took it when I first read it. And I'm not someone who is defending Hunter Dickinson in any regards, because again, I think that if you have a problem with the way NIL has become or whatnot, I understand. But no, I didn't see it as any sort of him whining about anything or him taking shots at Michigan. But you got to look at it in the perspective that he kind of laid out. If you're somebody who has a job and you may love where you're at, you may love what's going on, you may be happy and content and everything with your job, but then a company comes in and offers you, in this case, he uses a $10,000 increase. But say if he's getting less than six figures at Michigan, we know he's getting seven at Kansas. And they say, hey, I know you made $89,000 here, but if you come here to Kansas, you get 1.2 million. Like how are you not going to say, yeah, Lawrence is beautiful. I love that city. Like anybody would do the same thing. So I think that's how I put it. That's how I took it, where he wasn't whining about it. He's just like, it's a reality. Like we all would do that same thing. And so he did the same thing too. And you can't really blame him for it.
He said it was a factor. He didn't necessarily say it was the deciding factor. Now, anybody that does love everything about their job, and if they're offered 10,000 more elsewhere, they're going to go back to their current job and say, hey, I really love it here. This is what's out there for me. I have an offer. What can we do here? Because I really love it here and I want to stay here. And then if they don't come close to it or they don't meet it or match it, then now you look into the overall situation, what works better for you. You want to move on because $10,000 would make your life a little bit better. Same thing with Michael Jordan. The movie Air was based on him signing with Nike. He really loved Adidas. So it can, some of the storylines have come out here recently, and Jordan was asked about it. And he said that he went to Adidas and said to them, if you can come close to what Nike is trying to offer here, I'm signing with you guys right away.
Mm.
And so the bottom line is Adidas didn't get him anywhere close to where Nike said that what they would do. And so he ends up going with Nike, even though he really loved Adidas. That's where he wanted to be. He ended up with Nike because they didn't get anywhere close to what Nike was offering.
And that's sometimes how life is, folks. I mean, it's again, and put yourself in the position where you're a 21-year-old kid and you know that you have value, a lot of value, and somebody is literally going from either giving you 5 figures or offering you 7 figures for 1 year to just do what you've always been doing, is playing basketball. You're going to do it. You're going to take it like everybody would. And anybody that says that, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it when at that age too, and knowing that, hey, because who knows, he may not have an NBA career. He may not be able to play and make a ton of money, but he's like, I can do this right now. I can get this value right now and go to Kansas, possibly win a national championship. So to me, it makes sense. And I don't have any issue with him. I'm not going to hate on him for it. But I did think it was funny. He went through the schools that he was strongly considering and kind of went into the factors of why. He said that he called Kentucky. He said Kentucky was a risk because John Calipari's reputation of sending big men to the NBA was a factor. So kind of was like, he says he loved Kentucky, but that, and then he says Villanova.
Well, yeah, Cal could come back and say Anthony Davis. Ever heard of him?
Yeah, he seems to be doing okay. But then he also said about Villanova, said he loved playing its style and the family approach to the program. And then Maryland, he says, would have been a homecoming for him after growing up in D.C., but Kansas, he felt like was the best option. So I guess, those things were great. But, with the money and with Kansas and their ability to compete and their reputation of guys that they put into the league as well, sure all factored into it. But either way, he's going to be on Kansas next year. You get to see him play, and I guess they'll find out if he's worth all that NIL money as well. We're keeping it going here on Out of Bounds. We got what's trending in the world of sports coming up next. You won't want to miss it, so stay tuned.
If you're shopping for a vehicle, you want to get to Guadney Chevrolet. Guadney has the best deals in the market, been doing it 60-plus years. Give them a call, 501-982-2102. You get great deals at Guadney Chevrolet, no payments for 90 days, 1.9% APR. It's available on Equinox, Blazer, Trailblazer, Traverse, Silverado, Turbo Max, and that's when financing with GM and a well-qualified buyer. Make the trip to the Gregory Street exit in Jacksonville. Shop them online, GuadneyChevrolet.com. You can see all the deals, the cash allowances, the rebates, even appraise the vehicles, see just how much it's worth. They're giving thousands over book value, whether you trade that vehicle in or you sell it to Guadney Chevrolet. Guadney is always actively buying vehicles, so you get a great deal on that vehicle that you trade in or sell. Get a deal started on GuadneyChevrolet.com before making the trip to the Gregory Street exit. See the entire inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles on GuadneyChevrolet.com. It's Guadney Chevrolet, Arkansas's #1 Chevy dealer. Guadney Chevrolet, GuadneyChevrolet.com.
We will get to what's trending in the world of sports here in just a second. A few people, though, First Arkansas Bank and Trust text on asking a few questions. Sawyer says, can you all give us a current status on where we're at on scholarships with Mitchell saying he's returning? Well, assuming he's going to be officially returning, he will be on the team. You're full right now with Walsh and Devo scholarships if they decided to come back. But if one of them leaves, you got one open. If two of them leave, you got two open. So basically, we'll just assume that both of them are gone. So you have two scholarships available right now with Mitchell staying. So that's, I'm sure, something that they're trying to work with. And
that's why they're still actively in the portal.
That's right. That's right. And with the whole Ron Holland situation, too, I'm sure that they're still trying to do that. Also, the 870 says, we all talk about Darian Ford and why y'all think he eventually entered into the portal, and where do you see him going? Well, I think that's what we discussed, is that he was in a sort of ways kind of said, hey, maybe you need to move on and enter into the portal and try something different, because the role, you won't really have a role on the team next season. And that's why he entered into the portal. And honestly, just seeing some of the visits he's had, I think he's going to end up at a pretty good school. No, Vanderbilt's been really interested in him with Jerry Stackhouse. So, as far as speculating what school he's going to end up to, I have no idea. But I do know that he's good enough, quality enough to go to at least a Power 5 school and be at a school that can, who knows, maybe if it's even Vanderbilt, can really be able to add some things to his game as well.
And it's based off the interest that was there in him playing in high school and what type of player he was then, because they didn't see a lot of him at Arkansas. So it's not like they can go to video and see what it was like at Arkansas. They can, and see when he played, how he played at times whenever he got in. But it's based on the person that he is, the interest that was there before. They know he's a hard worker, and they'll get him in and talk to him and see where it goes from there.
I'm going to say Texas A&M, because every year they've just added a Razorback transfer. So just throw in another one, too. They went from Ethan Henderson to KK Robinson, throwing Darian Ford in there. Maybe the A&M will get him as well. All right, let's go ahead and jump into what's trending in the world of sports.
What's trending in the world of sports is sponsored by Arkansas-based West Rock Coffee. Join West Rock Coffee and their 1.5 million coffee farmers around the globe as they fuel Arkansas with great tasting coffee, tea, and water delivered directly to your business. Contact them at westrockcoffee.com or 833-886-JAVA today.
All right, what's trending in the world of sports? Had a few NBA games happen last night. One of them was pretty frustrating for Celtics fans, but 76ers took care of business there in Boston, 115-103. Now, obviously, it wasn't even that close. I felt like Philadelphia was in control of the game the entire game. The Celtics tried to, every time it seemed like they made a little bit of a run or a little bit of a flurry or a big shot, Philadelphia would always respond. And now they are up 3-2 in that series. Great performances out of Joel Embiid, 33 points out of him on 10 of 23 from the field. Also, Maxey Form had 30 points too. So he had a fine performance. James Harden, 17 points. Didn't shoot a whole lot. Only went 4 of 8 from the field, but they didn't really need him to go out there and do that. But Jason Tatum with 36 points just wasn't enough. Couldn't get anything out of Jeez, Al Horford, just see that 0 and it makes me frustrated. But anyways, 24 points for Jaylen Brown too, but they just need a lot more than that, need a lot more help than that. But now they got to go back to Philly with the series on the line for the Celtics. And then in the other game, you had the Nuggets defeat the Suns. Something about Denver that just gets them to play at that high level, 118-102. And I had some funny stuff in there. Not only did Jokic, I should say, but the Joker go crazy. He had 29 points, 13 rebounds and 12 assists. Not a bad showing, but I also thought it was funny before the game he threw the ball to the Suns owner and had him hold on to it, just having a good go, and then they hugged, so it was all fine. But
he said he was trying to get that fine taken care of.
Yeah, well,
but he said that Matt Ishbia said nah.
Yeah.
And he didn't formally ask him, but he just thought that with a gesture there, he'd be like, "Hey, you know about that 25,000? Don't worry about it. Gotcha."
Yeah.
He said no, he didn't hear anything of the sort.
No, nothing like that.
But he also, with that triple-double last night, he has the most triple-doubles in the playoffs by a center. And, of course, they had some fun on inside the NBA after that because they were talking to him, and he said, "Hey, where's Shaq on that list? Is Shaq on there somewhere?" Shaq goes, "No, because I never passed it." So I wouldn't have gotten a triple-double.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Well, I saw that he did get a technical last night to kind of maybe return the favor. Or he didn't get technical. He caused a technical where Kevin Durant kind of gave him a shove as they were trying to listen in on the huddle. So I guess as far as that goes, it was a little bit of a reversal of roles, but still a good performance out of the Nuggets altogether. And
also with that triple-double too, he passed Wilt Chamberlain. So
good
that's
company.
that's why he's like, all right, he's where's Shaq on that list? But Wilt Chamberlain, you think about one of the best of all time when it comes to scoring, and then some of the records he has out there. He was the number one center with triple-doubles in the playoffs.
Also, in some other news, we talked about yesterday the whole Bob Huggins situation and the thing he said on the radio in Cincinnati. Really bad deal, but his punishment has been handed down where he is still keeping his job, but he has agreed to $1 million salary reduction, a 3-game suspension, as well as sensitivity training. So his salary goes from where he made $4.2 million to now to $3.2 million, and it is believed to be the biggest salary reduction ever in college athletics. So, he's going to go through some training for sensitivity and 3-game suspension and all that, but he gets to keep his job.
That's the main thing.
Right. And I know I'm not condoning anything. Again, what he said, he shouldn't say it. He should never been said. He shouldn't have done it and all that. But I am at least I don't think he should have lost his job over it either. I thought that they're punishing him because people will say, "Oh, they're just losing $1 million. That's a lot of money to the you think it's not, but that's literally 25% of his yearly salary. Imagine if anybody else that out there, if you lost 25% of your salary, it'd be a huge cut. So, but I think the punishment fit the crime on that.
Yeah. It's essentially a fine, but they take it out of his salary where he never sees it. So he doesn't have to worry about paying a fine, but he is losing that money. Now, they could have said he could have been fined $100,000, but $1 million sends a bigger message and teaches him more of a lesson there. So won't happen again.
Mm-hmm. It kind of sets a precedent too, I'm sure, for hopefully nobody ever comes out and says anything like that again on radio. But for college coaches or college basketball coaches, kind of sets a little bit of a precedent there as well. And also, I know we'll talk about it later in the show a little bit more in depth, but we got the NFL releasing their international schedule officially. And we'll have to talk about some of the games where actually a lot of the games are pretty good games, pretty good matchups that's going to be going on down there. So we'll probably go through those a lot more later in the show, too. And I know that also the Jets, I guess, are playing on Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving against the Dolphins. They'll be hosting that. So I'm glad that the Cowboys and Jets game is not Thanksgiving then in Arlington. That's what I had.
Maybe the first game of the season.
Oh, well, I guess
still that.
Guess I start getting down there to Arlington where it's going to be blistering hot, but I'll still be there no matter what. But we'll have more things to talk about and what's trending in the world of sports. Got to take a top of the hour update when we come back. Pat Bradley's going to join us. You won't want to miss it, so stay tuned here on Out of Bounds. 1 hour down, 2 hours to go. Appreciate everybody listening in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. John Nabors, Joe Franklin, broadcasting live from the Hoggs Meat Market Studios with you today. And thank you, as always, for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. It has been a fun-filled show on a wide-open Wednesday as we've been talking about everything in the sports world that is going on. Razorback basketball is getting some big news. We had some NBA playoff talk, as well as some of the NIL with Hunter Dickinson, which has always been a lot of fun covering that and talking about that as well. And honestly, there's probably I don't think it's probably about it. There's nobody better than to talk about all of this stuff as we go to the Jones and Sun Diamond and Bridal Fine Jewelry Hotline and welcome in our guy, Pat Bradley, thanks to Motorsports Authority. And PB, as always, man, appreciate you joining us. How you doing this afternoon?
Doing good. What's up, boys?
What's up, PB? How's everything?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. What's the word on the ground?
Well, there's a lot of words, actually, and I think that's starting with the whole Mekhi Mitchell deal of him announcing via social media on Instagram that he is returning to Arkansas, and then you have the Razorback basketball Instagram account also putting out a graphic saying, hey, he's coming back, but then they delete it. And so it's kind of this weird conundrum where, yeah, I think he's coming back, but why is it being weird right now on social media?
Did they maybe delete it so that he could have his own time to shine? I don't know. I mean, what did they do that for everybody else? Or that would be the only thing is like allow him to have the clicks on his deal.
Yeah, because I think because we actually discussed this, the only ones that they did it for on their official account on Instagram is they did it for Trevin Brazil and they did it for Jalen Graham. They did not do it for Ford or Dunning.
Do they have Instagrams on their own?
Yes, they do.
Probably, right?
Yeah. And so that's where people are wondering, okay, well, they did it for those guys. They didn't do it for these guys. But if they put it out that they deleted, does that mean that he's actually not coming back? Do they have a change of heart? Just got people all concerned and wondering what in the world's going on.
Yeah. I would say maybe, kind of let him and his sort of brand be, kind of set alone for people to share that. First thought. And then second thought is, yeah, the official one is usually the one that you go by, not the player's one. So maybe that's it. Maybe they just kind of want him to, how they do the announcements and all that kind of thing. Maybe part of it is let him sort of have the moment and, the official word come from his account. Possibly. Who knows?
They just got ahead of themselves. That's all. They didn't talk to us about it, and they tweeted it out. That's what it is.
Oh, you think the schools deal? Yeah.
Because for it to be official, you have to get the official word from the people who are actually making the call, not the player.
Right. So one of those where he says, "Yeah, I'm coming back," but he didn't check with the head man.
Yeah, that was kind of the vibe. Is almost like, did an intern put this out? Did that go a little too early? Because they're very calculated. Yeah. They're very on point when it comes to their social media and marketing and all that. So that's why people are saying there has to be a reason behind it. Because here's the thing, PB. I'd understand if there was like a typo or if it was the wrong graphic or something like that, but they still haven't put anything out over the past few hours. So maybe it's just something that they jumped the gun, as Joe said.
Well, I guess if that transfer apparently was their big man transfer that's out there still, if he decides to transfer in, then is Mitchell out? Right? Is that how it works?
Somebody's going to be out somewhere.
Someone's out. Because there's two hanging out there that possibly could come in, right?
Yeah.
And there's, I think, one scholarship available right now. So if two come in, then one's out.
They have, they have actually. Even if Mitchell's coming back, assuming he is coming back, they're full on scholarships. But that includes Devo and Walsh, who could come back. But if they move on, then they have two available.
But here's the crazy thing. Number one, if the money scholarship, quote unquote, being on scholarship is not even really a big deal. I mean, you can find somebody to pay. What's it cost to go to school there?
It's changed so much since I was there, but yeah, probably about, we'll just say 10,000 a year, roughly.
All right.
10,000 a year. That's getting off easy.
Right. I mean, if Muss really wants a guy that's on scholarships, he can find somebody to pay that. But the other thing is 13 guys aren't going to play ever in a game. Well, maybe, when we play what do they call them?
Or play overseas, which that's not happening this year. But yeah,
Right.
play some of those exhibition games.
Yeah. I don't know what the politically correct term is for those teams anymore, but the November games, let's say. But I mean, it's so, it's just there's only going to be 10 guys that play, maybe 9, 8, depending on foul trouble or injury. So it's going to be wild to see. It really is. Because everybody seems to be really talented on the roster. Right? I mean, each one of these guys are either started on their previous teams or were league all-stars or whatever it is. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Well, that's what Coach Muss is faced with every year. And, on the outside, we're looking at it saying that all these guys can contribute. And on the inside, he's like, well, in reality, it'll be 7 or 8 of these guys.
Right. And then, that if you're a coach, you want to be in that position if you can handle it. That's something that I think the average person doesn't understand, is that these coaches have to make difficult decisions, and they're built to do that. Look at a player who has done everything you asked of him and say, yeah, we're not going to play you. It's a difficult job, but if you're built to do it, but that's, if you're a coach, to be able to have all those options is what you want, because now, okay, they'll start training camp and, he'll have, I guess, 13 guys who legitimately could all have a chance to, let's say, play, 30 minutes a game. And so, for him, that's what he wants, be able to figure out, what's the best combination of guys. And, we know it's going to take a little time. That's what usually happens.
Well, we know from us, that's what we've come to know from him. Now, other coaches, they have a different philosophy, the way they go about it, and they go deeper into the rotation. But this is what we've come to know from us, even if we feel like, there's so much talent on this team. We know what his philosophy is and how far he wants to go into the rotation.
Right. And I think another thing that's important is, like, as a coach, you have to build it the way that you're comfortable and where your strengths are. And I think for Coach Moss, he, excels in having, a fresh set of guys every couple of seasons. And, for other coaches, they excel at having, 4 or 5 year guys. But I think what's great is that he understands what it is that, he wants to do. And because, at the end of the day, it's, if you don't do it the way you want to, success or no success, we know how that could end up.
So PB, let's just play it on the assumption that Mekhi is coming back, like that he will be on the team next year. Just what do you think that does for the Razorback roster? And also, what does it think that he can do as an individual to maybe increase his game and get even better next season?
Well, see, I think because you got Brazil coming back at 6'9", and you got Mitchell at 6'10" or whatever he is. The only other significant size you have is going to be the freshman coming in, Bay Fall. And you just never know with the big, with freshmen, how quickly they'll develop. So, I think it's important to have a guy like Mitchell who has played already a year for Coach Moss. Physicality, just a big body that understands. So, whether it's him or, if they do get that transfer, I forget what school he's from, who's another big body guy, you're going to need that size. And so that's why it's important, either one of them.
You have to factor in that players are going to miss games at times. Also, not that you're thinking about anything that happened like similar to this past season, that players are going to be out for an extended amount of time, but you do have to factor that in, and that's why you do have such a deep roster that you'll be able to depend on other players in case certain players miss games.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is, Makai, we've seen him, come in and like I said, just be able to be physical, give you fouls if you need to. And, obviously we don't anticipate or hope for any injury. That's, outside of that, the worst. That's probably the one thing this year that you look back on and say, my goodness, man, if those two guys did not get injured, what could it have looked like? Because those were two talented guys. But you're right, Joe. I mean, it could happen, right? I mean, that's, we always call it a health contest. And, it seems like it does happen, obviously, at some point. You just hope it's not as severe as, what happened to poor Trevin last year.
Yeah. Not even to the extent. Just thinking about Mikael Mitchell missed some games last year. In the past,
didn't it seem like there wasn't a game or a couple games where somebody was sitting out with something?
Yeah. But even in the past,
man.
Mason Jones and Isaiah Joe, when they were on the roster at the same time, they missed games.
Right.
So, you're always thinking about some key pieces. They, it could be something minor, but they may have to miss a game or two.
Right. And, I think that's probably talked about. That's one of the things that every great assistant coach says to all the guys that aren't playing as much as they want to. Your time's going to come, son. Your time is going to come. Stay ready.
We're speaking with Pat Bradley here on the Jones and Son Diamond and Bridal Fine Jewelry Hotline, thanks to Motorsports Authority. PB, we also, speaking of Razorback basketball, got the announcement that Arkansas is having 4 players in the NBA draft combine. Anthony Black, Nick Smith Jr., Ricky Council, as well as Jordan Walsh. Devo did not get the invite, but Arkansas tied for the most players represented from one school in this year's NBA draft combine. So what do you make of those players? And also, do you think all 4 of those players get drafted in this year's NBA draft?
There's a good chance all 4 will get drafted. And, with Jordan Walsh, it's not a matter of if he's going to play in the NBA. It was just when. And I anticipate that once he gets in front of a lot of those teams, and the kid's got great attitude. He wants to play defense. And when you got 6'7", length like that, athleticism like that, he wants to play D. The rest is going to come for him. So I would not be surprised if he was a late second rounder or something like that. If not, I mean, he's going to play in the summer league, and somebody will sign him to an NBA team. So, I'd say that's probably about right. I mean, what we thought kind of going into the season, outside of Ricky Council, obviously just shot. I mean, he exploded onto the scene, but that's a great recruiting tool Coach Musk can use, pointing back to Ricky Council, who's got all the athleticism in the world and has just needed his opportunity to show what he could do with the ball and pick and rolls and making some big shots. So right now you would think Smith, Black, Council are in the draft. Probably Walsh and Council, I'd say, as second rounders.
What are some of those other opportunities for Devo? Not getting the NBA draft combine invite, but Portsmouth Invitational, of course, that's for seniors. But there's some other showcases that the players would be able to go to these camps and play in front of scouts. What are some of the other ones that are out there?
Oh, no doubt. I mean,
did you play at Portsmouth?
I didn't play at Portsmouth. Kareem and Derek went to Portsmouth. And basically it was, the NBA Summer League. And I'm sure Devo is going to be brought in for workouts by multiple teams. I'm sure his agent, whoever his agent is, have already been in contact with all NBA teams. And they're going to bring him in for, I went in for a workout. And with the Celtics, and ended up playing for this summer league team. But Devo will be on a summer league team. I anticipate he's going to be signed to go to a training camp. I anticipate he's going to be signed by an NBA team, either for a two-way contract, or heck, he may make the team. I mean, we forget he's 6'4", with what? I don't know, a 7-foot wingspan, with toughness that doesn't quit. We've witnessed how he's improved his shot. Like, we watched this kid improve offensively. So, he's got that in him. He's not even close to where he could be offensively. So, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind he is going to be on an NBA team. If he wants to, I don't know. Maybe there's another country that offers him $2 million. He'd rather do that. But if he wants to play in the NBA, there's no doubt he will.
Well, PB, and that's the thing with Devo, and I'm not saying specifically with him, but players like him, just with the NIL and stuff, there might be so much more incentives where players like him may actually end up coming back, where before, they're like, hey, even if I play overseas or if I play in some sort of summer league, I can still at least get a little bit of money. But I feel like, again, players like Devo, there might be a lot of incentive for them to say, hey, I'll try it out, see if there's anything there. But unless I really like what I see, I can just come back to school and make a lot more money via the NIL, which we know a guy like Devo has done very well in the NIL here at Arkansas.
I don't think that, the NIL to me is not like that, because I mean, you're talking about, think of yourself at 20 years old. You didn't understand the value of money as much as you do when you start having a mortgage, so to them, the ultimate goal is the NBA. That's the number one thing. And if he signs a two-way contract, the G League Ignite team, I think, is paying guys like what, $500,000 or something like that anyway.
Yeah.
So to me, the NIL doesn't keep. I think it makes it nice. Like a guy like Oscar Tshiebwe in Kentucky, he comes back and makes a nice little chunk of change, sure. But if he could have swapped out his NIL for this year for being like a first rounder, it's not even a question. You look at Jalen Williams. He left after being a second rounder, and you see what he's doing now. So I think the NIL is nice. However, the thing that trumps everything is being a professional basketball player.
Yeah, it's all about the options that are there, and that's what NIL presents, the option to go back and make some money.
It's a cushion. It's a nice cushion.
Yeah.
Freak, it's almost
That's
almost like, we all wanted to play in the NBA, and some guys went to certain schools because they maybe offered them money, but it was just part of the process. It was like, on the road to getting to my ultimate goal, sure, I'll go to school here because there's a nice little, little gravy that comes with it. But it's not like it doesn't move the needle and affect it that much, in my opinion.
Well, but here's the thing, though. I'm not more. If you're talking about a guy that's getting drafted, obviously not. But I'm talking about players that are not going to get drafted, and players that are going to have to work their way up through those professional
I think
leagues.
Devo's NBA player, though.
Okay, and that's fine. I was just saying players like Devo, though, in that situation where if they're not going to get drafted, or if they're not going to have that opportunity, then the NIL is an incentive for them to come back in case of having another year of development and everything like that.
Again, though, I think we forget how well taken care of these guys are. Like, I mean, what's the option? So I guess. So what's the decision? Either he goes back to school, or he doesn't. He's lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, just like if he goes and he doesn't have an opportunity to make as much money and playing in these professional leagues or whatever, and he can come back to his school and make $500,000, there may be a little bit more incentive for him to come back to school.
Right. Well, I guess like in Devo's case, what would be if he doesn't come back to school, doesn't make an NBA team?
No, he's overseas for sure. at that point,
right, or the G
or
League.
the G League. But yeah,
Right.
overseas, to your point, he can make a lot of money if that's the
Right,
route that
right.
he chose to go.
And it might be the G League. In the G League now, though, you are under the umbrella of that NBA team, so you're in that system. So I don't know. I mean, and then there's sometimes guys just want to move on, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, I think you're undervaluing the NIL a little bit, but hey, that's okay. We got to run though, PB. Give a shout out to the
love
Motorsport.
the NIL. We're the best at it.
Give a shout out to the Motorsports Authority, fine folks.
MSAstore.com. Inventory, if you want service parts, obviously pre-owned vehicles, fantastic. And accessories, go to MSAstore.com. That's Motorsports Authority. Love you, boys. Johnny, I'm a big NIL guy.
Yeah.
See you, PB.
All right. See you, PB. Appreciate it. We got more Out of Bounds coming up next on a Wide Open Wednesday. Stay tuned. Savage, stay on the line, man. We'll get to you on the other side of the break. It's Out of Bounds here on a wide open Wednesday. Appreciate everybody listening in this afternoon as we've been having a lot of discussions about everything going on with basketball. Appreciate Pat Bradley joining us in the previous segment. Of course, Motorsports Authority, huge shout out to them and making it possible each and every Thursday or Wednesday. I keep forgetting that PB's now on Wednesdays, even though it feels like a Thursday to me. We're going to have Razorback pitcher Gage Wood. Excited about that. Here in about half an hour, he's going to be joining us as get to talk to him a little bit about his game and about his season so far and what he thinks about the team as a whole. So anytime we get to talk to some current players is always fun. We've had Peyton Stovall on each and every week, which we know is always enjoyable on Mondays, but get a little pitching side of the rotation from Gage Wood out of Batesville, which I've actually never been to Batesville. I will admit. I can't sit here and say that I've been to many cities in Arkansas that I probably should have, but Batesville is definitely one of those cities that I have not ventured into, so I don't know much about it. So maybe we'll talk about his hometown a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Great place, man. If you've ever been through there. So where Mark Martin is from.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So Mark Martin, Gage Wood, you got the greatest of athletes right there. That's coming out of there as well. So, but yeah, that'll be a lot of fun to catch up with him. And we'll see how he feels about the whole season as a whole. Let's see. I was going to read that, but I guess we can see if he's been holding on long enough. It's been quite a while, and yes, he is indeed holding on. Let's go ahead and go to phone lines. Navy Mike's on. All right, Navy, what you got for us today? Who are you going to be trolling today?
No, John. Hey, what's up, John? And what's up, Joe? Honestly, the whole Hunter Dickinson thing and the NIL thing, a lot of people don't like NIL. They think it's, ruining the college game. And a lot of people think, well, now it's turning college sports into a business. Well, honestly, big time college sports has always been a business, but I love NIL. I like that these players are finally able to command and demand top dollar for the service that they provide. Because let's be real here, they are providing a real tangible service to the universities and to the fans.
Mm-hmm.
And right. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, they appreciate the phone call, Navy. I think we've talked about it pretty ad nauseum. I am all for the NIL. And I think most people are all for the NIL. I think the only thing that maybe people have issues with or take issues with is when it becomes like you have transfer portal and you can go to a guy and be like, hey, even though you're doing great at your school, we're going to pay you more over here. I think that that's the thing that people are a little bit frustrated by, because it does seem a little bit, weird where at least in the NBA, or at least in professional sports, you have a contract and you have to fulfill that contract and there's a process in it. Where in this case, it's just hey, if I do really well at this one school, I can go and get a bigger paycheck for another year at a different school.
They do have a contract, in a sense, the scholarship, and that's available for 1 year.
Yeah.
It's not a 4-year deal. It goes year by year.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though, is that it's a year by year thing, but there's no sort of punishment. There's no sort of like, oh, you got to pay out. You have to have a payout or a buyout if you end up leaving or anything like that. That's the problem that kind of runs into where, because it's so much of the Wild West, because there's not any sort of policing or any sort of regulation on it as of right now, at least. There's just kind of a willy-nilly, like certain people get screwed, but certain people get the benefit. Certain schools get screwed, certain schools get the benefit, and it's all over the place and all across the board where, it's kind of just a free-for-all. You can do whatever you want just as long as, you're not quote-unquote tampering, or at least get caught tampering, which we know is going on anyways. So, but I don't think anybody is upset or thinks that the NIL is a bad thing in its principle. It's just more when you got people just kind of going out and saying, all right, who's going to pay me the most money? And that's where I'm going to go and leave the school I was just at behind.
It was amazing hearing from going into NIL before it ever got started, and just kind of hearing how it was going to take place and what was going to happen. It was amazing hearing from former athletes that at the time they weren't really on board with it, because they would say, well, there's not a need for it. They get plenty of money going their way. They get taken care of while they're at school. They get all the gear they want. And then it's amazing to see that how their opinions have changed with some of these former athletes that felt that way going into it. And now that we're here, they're all in favor of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's a process to where, it's something to where you still see state governments, local governments trying to do things, trying to get involved. I saw some things where a certain state government was looking to even make it a rule to where not only is the NIL great as it is, but even student athletes could use the name, image, and likeness of the schools that they represent with their NIL. Like, for instance,
that brings in even more money.
Yeah, but the problem with that is, or at least the legality of it all is that, like, right now, for instance, I don't know how many people know this, but like for the interviews that we have of student athletes here on our station, we cannot, even though we have them on, we can say they're, part of the Razorbacks and everything, but we cannot use any sort of pictures on our social media with them in Razorback uniforms or using the Razorback colors or anything like that while we're using them for NIL. If they pass that rule, then that would suddenly come in and where they could do that. They could use, like, we could use their graphics, we could use all of that, and they could use in a sense, the name, image, and likeness of the schools to be able to promote their own NIL, which again, it has its pros and cons, but a lot of the universities would be like, okay, well, we want to have our cut of that though, because that's our stuff. That's our stuff that they're going to be using. So it's kind of all over the place. It's kind of wild to see, what people think should be right about it or corrected about it or whatever it may be. But that's where it kind of gets into a wild thing, is when you start getting the actual governments involved and like rules and politicians and everything getting involved that will change it. But hey, that's how we got to NIL in the beginning, because it was California and that state law that was put into place that kind of opened the floodgates and had it going on too.
Schools and states that do allow the students to use the university's logo and everything, then of course they use that also, where they say this is available through NIL.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if they allowed us to use Razorback stuff, I would like that. That'd be nice, because trying to find pictures or anything of these players not in a Razorback uniform is pretty difficult to just find in general. But that's kind of where they're at. They try to make it to where, if you're going to use our stuff, we want to cut. I don't know. Like I said, it's above my pay grade, but I just know that it would be a nice thing on for me selfishly to say, hey, yeah, we can use that. I'm sure the players are like, hey, if I'm a Razorback player, I want to use my Razorback stuff. I want to wear my Razorback jersey. I want to, wear a Razorback hat if I go and do an event or whatever. But as of right now, they just can't do that according to
if the players sell merch, or if they're signed to an NIL deal with certain companies, they could use that in the image, and then that would work for them just as well.
That's right. And again, if they ended up getting it to where they could just have their own, cut of the deal, then I'm sure that they would be all in favor. Oh yeah, they'd absolutely be all in favor of that one. Just go to Jeff, who's in Cabot. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, I just got a question about the NIL.
Okay.
If a certain company is sponsoring this player, does that mean that player works for that company? Or is the money that is given to that player considered a gift, and it's being taxed at 35% instead of like a regular income tax?
My understanding is it's like a contract. It's like contract work.
1099.
Yeah, so you get a 1099 for it, and it's obviously set up through, okay, in the contract that they signed, it's like this amount of weeks, or this is what is expected of you, this is what you need to do, this is what all of that, and then at the end of the day, and this is something when we had Terry Prentice on a few weeks ago talking about it, it's like these kids have to file taxes and they have to go through the process, and that's what schools help them do also in trying to figure that out and go through it all and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So basically, they're kind of employed with that company that's paying their NIL deal. So it's not like a bonus, because if you get a bonus from a company, it's 35% tax or whatever compared to your regular wages is, not tax that's high.
They're not going to be in that higher tax
No.
range at all.
Okay. I was just curious on how that would work. So it makes a little bit of sense now for me.
Yeah. No, we appreciate you listening in, Jeff. Yeah, it's a complicated thing.
Thanks,
yeah, I get it. It's complicated. It's tough to figure out, and there are people that are involved every single day that I'm sure struggle to figure it out too.
And then to keep in mind, they could be signed to multiple companies, so it's not just the one company they're signed to. There could be multiple, so they're getting a 1099 from each one of those contracts that, each one of those companies that they're in a contract with.
Let's go to JK in Fairfield Bay. What's up, JK?
Hey, guys. I'm confused because if Hunter Nicholson did go to Michigan, I don't know if he had a scholarship and he made all this money. does he have to pay the scholarship off? Does he have to pay any money back? And I'll hang up and listen. I got a helicopter, brother.
All right, appreciate it, JK. The answer to your question is no, he does not. As we were talking about, scholarships are like 1-year contracts as well, where if not like you're signing a 4-year deal or anything like that. It's you get 1 year, and then if you want out of your scholarship or out of that school, and vice versa, if the school wants you out of it, that's it. Like there's no punishment, there's no repercussions for it, there's nothing owed. It's just a 1 year by year deal that both bunch of people can have their own say in it too. So
That's the way it should be, though.
it should, yeah, because it's about fairness, and it's about value, and it's about making sure that everybody's on kind of the same playing field in the deal. Because let's be honest, it's like the schools, yes, they're very much in part of it too, but the players on the product, they're much involved. So it's trying to make it fair for everybody. And I think that the 1 year deal with scholarships is fair for everybody. It's fair for the players to where, if they wanted to move on and transfer, they can. But it's also fair for the schools where they're like, hey, don't see a role for you this year. We got somebody better coming in. You can move on in that way. So again, it's just about fairness. It's about trying to make it right for everybody. And from that aspect, I think that they've done a pretty good job. But really appreciate all the calls and comments. We got a lot of people continuing wanting to chime in on it. So we'll take a commercial break. We'll come back with more of that on a Wide Open Wednesday here on Out of Bounds. So stay with us. It's a wide open Wednesday here on Out of Bounds, folks. And I know we have had some great conversation about NIL. A lot of people chiming in on it and giving their thoughts and opinions on what's all been going on. In fact, had a few people that also jumped in First Arkansas Bank and Trust text line when we were talking about the NBA draft combine. From Brock, he says, we have a couple of transfers that are testing the NBA waters. Did any of them get a combine invite? And the answer to that is no. As far as those transfers that are coming in, did not. However, Grant Nelson, the transfer that Arkansas is really looking at, he did get a combine invite. So that's something to keep an eye on there too. And I don't think there was really any surprises there as far as who got an invite and who didn't get an invite at any point in time. I think there was some other person of note that was on there too. I think from the SEC, like Gigi Jackson got an invite from South Carolina. So that wasn't surprising. Oscar Shebway from Kentucky, Cason Wallace from Kentucky also got an invite. So a few overtime elites.
I knew they were getting invited.
Oh yeah, because I saw. I don't know much about these guys, but I saw. I guess are they twins? The Thompson twins.
Yep.
Yeah. Is it Amen Thompson and Asar Thompson? Is that how you say it?
Osir.
Okay. Is it Amen? I thought it was Amen. So I was like, all right, cool.
No, that is, but the other one, Osir.
Okay. So yeah, got a few of them from there, and also G League Ignite had a few of them there too. So yeah, I said no surprises there. But as far as the transfers coming in, no, they're not there into the mix, or at least did not get the invite there. All right, let's go back to the phone lines and get Jerry, who's not on the line either. So okay, I appreciate you calling in, Jerry. Call back. And by the way, it just started pouring down rain outside. I guess it was set to happen. I felt like this week was supposed to have a lot of rain anyways. Had a little bit here and there, but it's pouring down now. But the good news is that Saturday for our 19th annual BuzzBQ, the weather's looking good. It looks like the rain, as of right now, we know that there's always some changes that could happen when it comes to the weather. But as of right now, weather looks good to go for the 19th annual Double B's BuzzBQ on Saturday. So be sure to come on out, folks. Again, tickets are $10. Really easy to get. Just go to buzzbq.com. You can get them on sale there. Everybody that is 8 and under gets in for free, but it's going to be a great event. And listen, I mean, it would happen, rain or shine or anything like that, but BuzzBQ is always a lot more fun when you don't have to worry about the rain out there in the North Little Rock RV Park too. So.
Sometimes it's good to be a little overcast and have the weather cool down just a bit, but yeah, always going to be a good time, and get some good food, drinks, and enjoy some socializing because there'll be plenty of people there.
That's right. Are you have you decided which shift you're doing as Acre was putting it? Are you coming in the early, staying the whole time?
Didn't know that there were actual time slots, but yeah, I think it's more like you get there when you get there, and but you need to show up.
Yeah, well, because the only thing I didn't know if there's any time slots. It was more just like Acre's like, hey, we need to make sure we got plenty of people there the whole time, or at least coverage for Buzz people. So I'm going to be. I told them the late shift. I'm going to come there in the second part of the afternoon. So because I'm probably going to be driving back from Fayetteville, but we'll all be out there at some point in time, and in some cases be staying out there the whole time and enjoying it, and
which would be a lot of fun.
Oh, it would be, and it has been. Like I think it was last year, right before. I want to say was it last year or 2 years ago? Maybe 2 years ago. I didn't get to stay as long because I had to drive up for the regional, or was it the SEC tournament? There was some sort of thing that was going on where I didn't get to stay the whole time. But last year I stayed the majority of the time, and it was great. And stealing Pat Bradley's water. So yeah, I can't forget that. It's
highlight.
Yeah, that was one I haven't been able to live down. Who would have guessed? But hey, it was good water though. Kept me hydrated out there in the hot sun. How about this? Stan in Little Rock. What's up, Stan?
What to say about my man John? How you doing, bro?
What's up, Stan?
What to say, freaking Joe?
Hey, Stan, what's up?
Oh, what about them Lakers, man? What about the LeBron James and them Lakers, man? Y'all think they gonna shut the door on them, man? Y'all think they gonna shut the door and win the series?
Oh,
I'm gonna hang up listening to y'all, brother.
Okay. Yeah, they're in a good position to win the series. Don't know if it'll happen in Game 5, but yeah, it's hard to imagine that a roster with LeBron and AD that they would lose 3 games in a row. Not to say that it won't happen or couldn't happen, but just hard to imagine that happens at this point.
Yeah, I think Golden State wins one more, but that's it. I think that they at least make it a little bit interesting. But when you got up 3-1 and that much talent there, yeah, you're not you're not going to be able to just lose 3 straight unless barring some sort of like epic collapse or epic like horrible performances by AD and LeBron and everybody involved.
Hey, speaking of that, so the other game that happens tonight, it's the Knicks playing against the Heat, and the Knicks are going back home. Well, Shaq, a couple of nights ago after the Knicks went down 3-1, he was trying to explain about the Knicks only needing one outfit moving forward.
They may win another game, but if they go back to Miami, bring one set of clothes because it's going to be done.
They only playing one game.
Huh?
They'd only play one game.
They don't play. If you shut your fat face and listen, I said if they win, I'm talking about the Knicks. If the Knicks win,
I know.
and they get back,
They only play one game.
They
only need to bring one.
One second, only one game left. They
go back to New York.
No, but then they go home. So I'm saying. No, listen, I'm saying.
No, you don't just say. You
cut yourself. This is why I hate talking to you. Amy. Bring one set because your ass staying there. So bring a short set.
Why would you stay there?
Because your season's over. What you gonna go back?
You got to go back home.
No, you're not gonna go back home and get.
No, you making stuff up.
Let me finish.
Okay. Let's go ahead and finish. We want to hear it.
Bring one set and stay your ass in Miami because your season over.
Okay, nice try.
Stay at the beach. Sit next to the beach in Kenny.
See, now you got to throw me in it. He joined you all along. Now he won't throw me in it.
No, because you over there laughing.
I got laughing. He was right this time. Hey, I can't laugh when he's right. Wait, if he's right, I'm going to laugh.
I don't mind y'all laughing, but when y'all make Ernie laugh,
you Ernie laughing at you.
Listen, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna just start swinging with them.
Hey, listen, you bad hit. You gonna run around and chase him.
Hey, if you guys go back to Miami, pack 3 suits.
Bring one outfit because your ass standing. Let me finish, Earthlings.
So that was a couple of nights ago, and then last night, in talking about the Knicks and having to win another game, they said they're not calling Kenny anymore. They're taking his NY in New York. They're taking that away from him. So they're just going to call him Ken Smith.
Yeah.
And then they put up the pic of when he was young and he was playing basketball and his name came up on the graphic and it said Ken Smith.
Oh.
So they said that's where he is until the Knicks win. He's going to be Ken Smith. And he said, so he needs the Knicks to come through for him tonight or he's just going to be Ken Smith from now on.
Yeah, I was laughing about that. And that's the thing, again, we play clips from that show and it just cracks me up every time. But what I love about it is it's not just like they roast one person or it's like one person that says something dumb that gets roasted. Like all of them have. I think probably like Ernie might be the one that they do it the least. But even like Kenny, when they were kind of roasting about those pictures on TMZ that came out and, making fun of him because he was with that one model or whoever she was. Like they are always going after each other too. So yeah, that makes it even funnier. So.
Oh, they even asked one the other night. They had Robert Horry on there. Robert Horry was teammates with Shaq at one time and with Kenny Smith. So they played a game to see which teammates knew each other better. And then they were just throwing out random things like, hey, which one of these guys is going to get married again first? Talking about Kenny and Shaq. And Kenny wrote down 5th on there, meaning I plead the 5th. And then they threw in a bonus one where they said, okay, who showered the least of your teammates? And Horry and Shaq right away said Rodman. And they're like, he never showered. He'd have 30 rebounds in a game, go straight to the club. Ernie's like, no, we're talking about who actually showered, not who didn't shower.
Oh, see, like I said, that show is just absolute gold for content for sure. We got Gage Wood, Razorback pitcher. Join us next. Stay with us. 2 hours down, 1 hour to go. Appreciate everybody listening in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. John Nabors, Joe Franklin, broadcasting live from the Hoggs Meat Market Studios with you today. And thank you, as always, for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. It has been a fun-filled show here on a wide-open Wednesday as we've been talking a lot of basketball, especially with Razorback basketball and Mekhi Mitchell coming back. It's been a lot of fun and getting great discussions on NIL and Hunter Dickinson and all of that. But we do know with Razorback baseball, they got a big series at home this weekend against South Carolina, which will be their final regular season series here in Baum Walker Stadium. And it's been great so far for the Hogs. I believe that D1Baseball.com has them as the number 4 national seed right now and looks to be in the driver's seat of hosting the regional. But as a national seed and everything, you still got 2 series left. But one of the big players that have really come along and done a great job for the Razorbacks this year has been Gage Wood, because we know that Dave Van Horn talked about his pitching staff in the beginning part of the season, saying it was one of the deepest he's ever had. They've had some injuries, but they've had other guys step up, and Gage has definitely been one of those guys, and we are fortunate to have him joining us right now. So let's go to the Jones & Son Diamond and Bridal Fine Jewelry Hotline and welcome in Gage Wood, Razorback pitcher. And Gage, we really appreciate you joining us and glad we could work this all out, man. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, glad to hop on and talk on here. Yeah.
Yeah. So just talk to us about your season so far. We know that there's been a lot of injuries, there's been some ups and downs. You guys have had to power through a whole lot, but yet here you are still winning games, sitting there at the top of the SEC West. Just how do you feel like you as a team has been able to have so much success, even though you've had a lot of obstacles to go through with so many injuries?
Yeah, I remember back in right before season was fixing to start, and we got the news about Wiggins, and that really hurt us, but our coaching staff has done a great job with just telling us that whatever adversity comes our way, no matter what, we got to move on, and we can't just have that. We can't look back and say, man, if we had all these guys healthy, we would be so much better. Instead, we gotta make something happen. We gotta step up, and we still gotta play like the Razorbacks play baseball, So that really just kind of gave everyone else something more to work harder for and try to achieve, is just to still hold down this tradition of always being a really good baseball team. And I think it was really important how they had said that to us, that just you're going to have to respond to adversity a lot. And I think that we've done a great job doing that this year. No doubt those guys, if we had them, they would be tremendous more help. But I feel like we've done a great job of really responding to these, all these forms of adversity this year, and still making things happen and work out well for us,
Gage, with you being a freshman, what's that adjustment been like for you this season so far? And just getting out there and getting into your role, coming out of the bullpen and taking on that closer role?
I kind of knew that I was going to be one of the bullpen arms since the beginning of the season, but it started out. I didn't start out real well this season, and it was honestly the biggest thing I can remember is just the mental aspect of the difference between playing high school with showcase ball to coming to college baseball, because I'm a freshman, 19-year-old kid playing against guys that are 24, 25, and have all this more experience than me and whatnot. And I really just had to tell myself that I was supposed to be here. I'm here for a reason, and that I had to mentally know that I was good enough for the job. And once that started happening, I started seeing a lot more success and doing what I do on the baseball field, and that really helped. The mental side was the biggest thing for me.
So you talked about at the beginning of the year and going through some things and all of that. Just as far as where you're at right now as a freshman, is this what you thought you would be doing? Because with the injuries, I know guys had to step up, and who knows, what would have happened if those guys are still in the rotation and everything. But was this kind of the role you expected to be in? Was this what Matt Hobbs and Dave Van Horn were kind of hoping that you would be in your freshman year? Just what were the expectations you had as an individual for this season?
Yes, I totally felt like I could impact the team in a good way this season as a young bullpen arm. and that was what I wanted to do. And I had talked about it with them in my exit meetings in the fall, and they said I was going to get the pitch, but depending on my performance was just going to depend like how much. And luckily, they never lost faith in me, and even when things weren't so good, they kept faith in me and knew that I could do it. And then once I figured out that I could do it, then that's when things started going really well.
What's your availability like game to game? Is it based on pitch count, or is it more about innings?
I see myself and they see me as like, if we have a lead in the last 3 innings, then they're going to put me in and let me go finish it, But honestly, it's whatever they need me for and they need me to do, I'll do it, just whatever I can do to help the team, honestly. But I've been anywhere from the last 3 or less innings throughout this season,
Speak with Gage Wood, Razorback pitcher here on the Jones & Son Diamond and Bridal Fine Jewelry Hotline, thanks to John Nabors Media LLC. But hey, Gage, I know that it's been quite a year, and knowing the roles that you played in, and just the guys on the team and in the pitching room there with you. What is that thing like? Because we've had some former Razorbacks on our show, whether it's a Trent Daniel yesterday, who's actually a former pitcher. He talked about the thing he loves seeing in the dugout or out there in the bullpen. It seems like there's a lot of camaraderie. It seems like there's support. You guys are just a close-knit group. Just talk to us about that and how that has been with not only you guys as a team, but also especially in the bullpen and with all your other pitchers there. Just how do you guys vibe and come together as a team?
That's one of the greatest things about this team is like nobody really sees what goes on behind the scenes, like kind of what you're asking. And everyone, like once we had all moved up here last fall, getting ready to like start fall ball and everything, everyone just like was really welcoming, and like everyone's cool with each other on the team. Like there's no like beef or any sort of drama between anyone. And I think that really helps us, because we're all rooting for each other. We all want everyone to do the best they can do. And that'll take the team a long ways. And I think that this team chemistry we have is like something really special. I've never really been a part of something like as close as everyone is. And especially like the pitchers are like super close with each other just because like that's who we're around the most. And then the hitters the same way, like they're around each other all the time, like 24/7 pretty much when we're at the field. But we can still all just like when we're all still together in the locker room before a game or something, everyone's always getting along, and that's really great.
When did you know that pitching was your way? Because, being a versatile player and not only being a pitcher, but playing different positions growing up, when did you know that pitching was the way that you really wanted to go?
When I was like 16, I started throwing harder, and I was definitely the best at that. And I had to make a decision that I was going to just keep working on pitching, and I quit playing summer ball as a 2-way, and I only played 2-way in high school. And I really only did that because it was best for the team, and I enjoyed it and everything. But once I really figured out about 16 to 17, when I started throwing like low 90s, I knew I could really go somewhere as a pitcher, and I was a lot better at pitching. So that's probably when.
Yeah, coming from Batesville too. Just what was it like growing up there and playing baseball there? Because there's a lot of obviously Dave Van Horn and the team that you're on has guys from all across the country and coming in. Some guys are JUCO guys, some guys are transfers, some guys are in-state, out-of-state, whatever it is. But what was that like playing there in Batesville and the recruitment process that you went through with Dave Van Horn and Matt Hoggs?
I really got all my recruitment looks, I feel like, playing like showcase ball. But, growing up in Batesville, it was probably one of the best things for me, just like the kind of like person I am. Cause like, I like small town stuff. Like I'm a small town guy, but going from Batesville, and then in the summers, I would travel to all the way to like Florida and stuff to play and be in front of all these scouts and stuff. And then when I finally got the call from Coach Hobbs that they wanted to offer me and stuff, that was really awesome because it was a dream come true, growing up in a small town in Arkansas, and all is the Hogs, and it's just a dream you want to do. And it was really great to like have this, to be able to get this opportunity, you know, and I'm super thankful for it.
Also, you mentioned that pitching and playing in the field, that was something that was best for the team in high school. You were a multi-sport athlete, so how did you make the decision to play baseball, and give some background on playing some of those other sports?
You know, I was always playing baseball, football, and basketball, and I really did. I love the other two, and I still sometimes like I like to go shoot around or play pickup with some of my buddies when I'm home on breaks and whatnot. And football, I really liked football, but I wasn't like I wasn't nearly as big as I am now. So I remember when I was like moving up to high school and stuff, like I wasn't the best because like I was really small. I was a late bloomer. But then I decided that I wanted to take like baseball more serious so I could train a lot more in the fall and then go play like fall tournaments like off in like Jupiter, Florida. I remember I was going to have to miss summer practice of football, and I made the decision that I wanted to play baseball. But I love those other sports. But I actually picked up golf my junior year of high school, and once I picked up golf, you know, I really started enjoying it, and I got to where I would play just about every day after I'd done like my baseball working out and everything. And then I played on our high school team junior and senior year, and golf's one of my favorite things to do now.
Yeah, so that's quite the amount of sports that you got going on there too. So it's like I always thought like with golf especially, if it I know you don't go out there and hit since you're a pitcher, but always heard that that kind of can throw you off a little bit if you're good on a golf swing, but then it messes with your baseball swing. Is that a little bit of a myth? Is there any truth to that?
You know, I always played it in high school, and then like even in season, I'd go play sometimes if we had days off, and I'd still play, and I didn't feel like it ever really affected me as long as you just kind of know the difference between the two swings, you know. Because I think honestly it kind of helps with hand-eye coordination because you have to be like so precise with golf, you know, and to like hit it good. So you could be pretty precise with it. So I'm sure it helps, but then again, like I guess it kind of probably depends on the person too.
How much you still get a chance to play golf, and how's your game?
I play every once in a while here now, but I didn't play for a while because I broke my handmate earlier, like later on in the fall season, and I didn't play for a while, but I still went to like Top Golf with like friends and teammates, and then me and some of the other guys have played a few times here recently, and I'd say I'm all right. I can hit it a good ways, but it's when I get to like chipping and putting, I ain't real good at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, which one of the teammates would you say is the best golfer, or would that be you?
Definitely me or Hunter Holland.
Oh, wow. So it's not even a question. It's like so he's known. He's the guy. He's the golf guy on the team.
Yeah, Hunter's really good. Hunter is. He's really good.
All right. Well, I'll make sure not to play with him in a scramble or anything like that then, if that's the case. So, but Gage, we have one of your teammates, Peyton Stovall, on with us each and every week on this show, and one of the things that we talked about with him, and it was after you came in and had a great showing earlier in conference play, is he says that you're a huge personality. You get fired up, you get energized, and all of that. Just do you see yourself as that way, and also is it something to where you've had like Dave Van Horn, is he kind of welcome that type of energy and that type of excitement? Just how do you describe your overall personality when you're on the mound and when you're in that moment, especially closing out a game?
When I'm in that moment, I'm thinking like I'm going to do everything in my power to like help my team win this game, and I'm full on like attack mode. Like before I come in, I like try to make myself as mad as possible because I feel like that helps me. And I think when I like finally do finish the game, or like I like get out of a jam or something, and like I'd show all that emotion, I don't know. I feel like it just kind of gets the team going, and like it just helps, and everyone's fired up, and I think it helps. It helps me as like a pitcher and a player. So that's why I do it. Like earlier on in the season, I wasn't really doing it or acting like that and acting like confident. And once I really got that confidence and started like being myself as a player, yeah, that it definitely helped.
Gage, do any of the teammates know about your nickname growing up, Fathead? Where did that come from?
That's just always been like my nickname when I was growing up playing travel ball. A few of them do, but like not all of them really know about that one. They gave me a few new ones this year, but not many people really hear about Fathead as much anymore.
So what's your nicknames this year then? What do you got?
I got Batesville Banger and like Ted or Teddy. Usually that's what I end up getting called.
Okay, so give us some background though on Fathead. Like, where did it come from? But how did that start? And then the newest ones, how did they get going?
It came from my dad when I was younger. I guess I just had like a really big head. I was a really big baby, and it just kind of stuck. And then that's what everyone called me when I was growing up playing ball. And Batesville Banger came from my curveball, the 12-6. They call it the Banger, so Batesville Banger kind of stuck. And then Ted and Teddy, they said, I guess because of my hair and because I'm not like super tall or anything, I said I look kind of like a teddy bear. And just messing with me.
Oh, well, I mean, listen, most people would love to have one nickname. You're over here having three of them that's going on. So, I mean, that's
yeah.
all, yeah. That's
coaches. I get Woody a lot by the coaches. That's what they call me.
Yeah. Well, I saw that also on social media, of course, with the Razorback baseball social media. They put out a bunch of different graphics and everything. But when you came in against Tennessee, one of the things that they put out says, "Got that wood right here." Like, I'm sure you understand the reference from it, right?
Yeah, I do. I think Tumac was actually in the stands that game too. That's why they did it.
Yeah, that to me is, again, growing up as a Razorback fan, that'd be a pretty cool thing. But yeah, it seems like you got a lot of plays on your name and a lot of different nicknames going for you too. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, that makes it that makes it a lot of fun. And another thing, Gage, is just as I know you talked about sports that you played and have played and golf and everything. Is there anything else off the field that you end up doing? Any hobbies? Anything that you like enjoy doing when you're not playing baseball or playing any sports?
I really like to go like hunting and fishing with my friends. I'd say I grew up doing that like all my life, and I got some buddies that that's what we do all the time. When it's like warmer outside and fishing's good, we're always trying to find somewhere to go fishing. And then when it's like fall to like winter and it's hunting season, me and those buddies were always going fishing. I mean, going hunting and doing whatever. I just really like to be outside with them, and honestly, I like to hang out with my good buddies from back home too. Those are definitely what I like to enjoy. I enjoy doing the most.
So your favorite game to hunt and what type of fishing?
I would say I really like deer hunting and turkey hunting. I didn't get to go this year because of the season and whatnot, but deer hunting, I really like how you got to be patient for that one particular like shooter buck to come out. And when I was younger, I used to just shoot like the first thing that would come out, like be a little buck or something. But as I got older and realized and understood the patience behind it, and when you finally do get the one you're after that you like hunted all season for, I find a lot of joy in that once you really get the job done and like actually hunted a deer for a while. I think that's probably my favorite thing to do. And fishing, usually anywhere. I mean, it depends where we go. We'll go bass fishing, crappie fishing, and sometimes even go catfishing nighttime sometimes.
So is there certain spots here in Arkansas? Do you just go back to Batesville for the fishing and the hunting part of it? Or, where do you go when you do these things?
Yeah, we go to like lakes and the river and stuff to go fishing, and ponds that I've got like friends that got some like really good ponds. We'll go there. And I do most of my hunting in Batesville.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I feel like that was probably the case. I've never been to Batesville. I'm not gonna lie, Gage. I've never been to Batesville. I never had a chance to. So if I ever do visit, what do I need to do? Like, is there something I need to make sure I experience in my time in Batesville if I ever go?
I would say it's not really like in Batesville where I'm like doing all this stuff, but like something to do in Batesville is definitely check out like Triangle Cafe. It's been there forever, and one of my really good buddies, his family owns it, and it's a really good diner, and I recommend the club sandwich. It's amazing. I get it every time I go home. But there's not really a whole lot to do. I mean, the sandbar is always a good time down there on the river. But other than that, it's just a small town. There really ain't a whole lot there.
Hey, well, listen, you got you, and of course you got Mark Martin from Batesville. So I mean, you got the whole crew that's coming out of there. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of good stuff to find down there. But Gage, hey man, we really appreciate you joining us. It was great talking with you, getting to know you a little bit, and I know our listeners really appreciate it too. So if we don't get a chance to catch up with you, man, good luck the rest of the season, man, and hopefully you guys take care of business this weekend against South Carolina.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you again. That was the current Razorback closer and pitcher for Razorback baseball, Gage Wood, joining us on the Jones and Son Diamond and Bridal Fine Jewelry hotline. So really good catching up with Gage. And that's a perfect segue. If you want a pair of Razorback tickets to Sunday's game against South Carolina, looks like it's going to be a nice one there on that day. Hopefully you're talking about the sweep. Be the first caller right now, 501-661-1037. We'll get you a pair of those tickets to Arkansas and South Carolina on Sunday's game, and we'll keep it moving here on Out of Bounds. So stay with us on the other side of the break. It is Out of Bounds on a wide open Wednesday. Appreciate everybody listening in this afternoon. Appreciate Gage Wood, former Razorback pitcher, join. Or see, saying former because it's like I'm so used to not having current pitchers on our show. But no, he's current. He's not off the team. He is there. We really appreciate him coming on and talking with us a little baseball and having some fun with him too. Because anytime you can talk with a current Razorback, it's always fun, especially a kid from Batesville, and gave me some good advice if I ever make it over there to go to the Triangle Cafe and get the club sandwich. So good to know. But we're going to keep it moving actually with our baseball conversation because we're also very pleased here in the Hoggs Meat Market Studios to be joined by Stephen Davis of the Arkansas Travelers and the voice of the Travelers himself. And Stephen, it's good to see you here in studio, man. How you doing?
It's good to be here. It's good to see you. We've talked a lot over the years where we couldn't see each other, John, but it's good to be here. And, it's nice of you to have me in on a wide open Wednesday instead of a trigger Tuesday. I can keep my anger to myself.
That's right. It tries to keep it really simple, which, people may not know this, but me and Steven go way back because when I was working my first radio station up in Northwest Arkansas,
you were like 10 years old.
Yeah, pretty much. I was in college, and it was literally my first gig when I wanted to get into radio. And one of the perks of the job, of course.
Yeah, this is not a perk.
But it was an absolute perk, was actually running the board for the Northwest Arkansas Naturals, where Steven was the voice. So we had to communicate a lot back and forth. And one of my most fondest memories I brought up with Steven is there was a night where the Northwest Arkansas Naturals played in a game that had some rain delays and everything. I think it went to, 21 innings, something to that?
20 innings. I'm not even sure if there were rain delays. I think it's just a long
Okay.
I don't know. We did everything that summer.
Yeah.
You were there most of the summer running the board, making sure I was on the air, the commercials played, all that fun stuff. And it was a nice perk for you because you got paid.
That's right.
It was a paying job, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. It was, as a college kid, any money was great.
Right.
So,
and you haven't looked back. You stayed in radio and you're still getting paid. I assume.
Yeah. Look at us now. Doing it. Yeah, still getting paid. At least the check's clearing. So, but Steven, just tell us about, man, how the season's gone thus far for the Arkansas Travelers. I know turnout's been great, and it's always good to talk baseball. So, how's everything been going so far this year?
Overall, really well. Crowds have been great. Our opening homestand a couple weeks ago, we had gorgeous weather, big crowds. The team's winning more games than they're losing. That's always good.
That's good.
17 wins, 11 losses right now. Another win last night, breaking a tie in the 8th inning with 4 runs. But we've had a few too many days like this has been part of the problem. The Travs have kind of been cursed by weather. Doesn't matter, home or road, they've had at least one game in each series this year affected by weather. We're hoping we can snap that streak this week. I don't know if that's going to happen now, looking at the forecast, but we've had 4 doubleheaders.
Oh, wow.
We've had 4 games rained out and other games suspended that we had to resume the next day for a quasi doubleheader. It's been a messy year with weather. Very, very unorthodox for the schedule for that. But that aside, no complaints at all. Otherwise, it's been an outstanding season. We're off to a great start. Good people on the team, some interesting stories, some good players. And then, you throw in the great promotions and stuff we've still got to look forward to this summer. And we're going to have a lot of fun.
So what are some of those promotions that are coming about?
Well, let's go with the big one coming up this weekend. Obviously, every Friday, fireworks at Dickey Stevens Park. So Friday, fireworks this week. And then Saturday is like what I would consider our first real big, promotional night of the season. It's Faith and Family Night. So we bring in a guest. We changed up the format a couple years ago. Bring in a guest, do a Q&A with them. And this year we got Darryl Strawberry.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. So Darryl Strawberry is going to be at the ballpark Saturday. They asked me, they're like, hey, would you mind? It's one of those, they would you do the Q&A? And they don't want to just straight up ask. And before they could finish asking, I was like, yes, I will do the Q&A with Darryl Strawberry. So about 5:45 Saturday night, Darryl Strawberry and I probably, I think we'll do it on top of the dugout maybe. Fans can get in early. The gates will open early Saturday night. We'll have Darryl Strawberry. And he did a nice promotional video for us. He said, we're going to talk about faith, we're going to talk about family, and we'll talk some baseball too. So we'll cover a lot of ground in about a 30-minute Q&A with Darryl Strawberry on Saturday night, and then the game's at 7:05.
Yeah, I don't want to beat you to the punch here, but what do you want to know as a baseball guy, just from baseball side of things? Like, what would kind of be like your number one question to ask Darryl Strawberry?
I don't know yet. When I first got the, hey, would you do this? Yeah, I'll absolutely do it. I'm thinking man, what do you ask Darryl Strawberry?
Yeah.
You start looking at what he did in his career, world championships with different teams, playing it for both New York teams, and then the personal highs and lows he went through as well. I'm trying to figure out, hopefully we'll get to all of it, but where do you start? What is the first topic you bring up with Darryl Strawberry and where he goes with his life and his career? So, I'll plan that out a little bit here over the next couple of days, but yeah, there's a lot of ground to cover with him. It's a really interesting story what he's been through in his life, and I'm looking forward to diving deep with him on Saturday and letting him share his story with the fans.
Not too far into the season, but with minor league baseball, you have players coming in and out.
Oh, yeah.
Any major changes that have happened so far?
Yeah, amazingly. Usually you got to wait till about mid-season till you get some like significant promotions, but we've seen a couple already. And good news, a couple of the guys we started with this year have gone straight to the big leagues, which is just fantastic. Bryce Miller, who was in our starting rotation at the end of last year and was back this year, a Texas kid from Texas A&M, just exploded when he got to pro ball. Wasn't a high-profile guy coming out of A&M. But his stuff has been awesome, and the Mariners and what they've done with him has been phenomenal in 2 years. And Bryce had a very impressive spring training, and they said, you know what, if we need a young starter at some point, even early in the season, Bryce could come up straight from Double-A. Well, that came last week. He goes to Oakland, and he's just dominant in his first start against the A's, struck out 10, didn't walk anybody, and he's the third pitcher in Major League history to ever strike out 10 and walk nobody in their big league debut with Johnny Cueto and Steven Strasburg. So pretty good company there. His second big league start, he goes out and beats the Houston Astros on Sunday. So Bryce has been fantastic up in the big leagues. Another one of our relievers, Juan Ten, a guy from the Dominican Republic who fought some injuries the last couple of years, got to the big leagues. He's thrown a couple scoreless innings his first 2 appearances. So that's the good news. We've lost a couple guys. Never good to lose them, but we want to lose them, get them to the big leagues. That's the goal. They've pitched really well. And then a couple guys they've sent us have performed well. Filling in, Juan Mercedes made his first start last night, had a successful outing, 5 innings, 2 runs. He's a 23-year-old. And we've got a new leadoff hitter, too. Jonathan Clase, 20 years old. He won't turn 21 till later this month. He's already on the big league 40-man roster. He's one of those guys, when you look at him out there, you're like, this guy's going to make some stuff happen. He looks the part with the physical build. He's strong. He's fast. He's only about 5'9", probably. But he's got a little bit of pop, a ton of speed, plays center field. Hasn't really had that big game yet at the plate to help his confidence, but I think the more comfortable he gets here in Double-A, the more he sees this higher level of pitching, he's going to be really, really good. He's a switch hitter. I'm excited to watch him play the rest of this summer.
Speaking with Stephen Davis, the voice of the Arkansas Travelers here in the Hoggs Meat Market Studios. And Stephen, we were kind of talking before you came on just about some of the changes that's happened in minor league baseball, especially since the COVID year happened and then to where it's at now. Just I'm curious, what are your thoughts on some of those major changes, and also looking forward, or do you think that there's going to be any other major changes or anything happening as far as the way minor league baseball is done?
You know, if I could predict the future, I'd be down at Oaklawn right now.
Yeah.
So there will be changes. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know what they'll be. There have been substantial changes, both in the way, you know, the front office operates with Major League Baseball essentially taking over the minor leagues. There's been changes with the game on the field. A lot of the rule changes that are in the big leagues this year hit us over the last couple seasons. We had all of those, in fact, last year in Double-A for the Travs. And then there's changes with the players and what they're going through as well. So and it kind of, we say it's been since COVID. It wasn't really because of COVID that all this happened. It just kind of timed up that way. And I think the biggest thing, especially for those of us that are still in the game and were in the game before, it feels like there were so many changes that happened, and there really were, but it was 40 years worth of changes. They just hadn't happened over a 40-year period. It happened in more like 3 months in some cases. And they were changes that needed to happen. The game needed to be modernized. The game needed to be updated, both in terms of product on the field, how the minor leagues operate off the field. They're good changes, things that needed to happen. And I think as we get down the road, and honestly, I think other than some of the rule changes on the field, which hopefully the minor league fans are used to now, you really didn't notice anything different if you were a fan of the Travelers and went to a game. The way the thing operates is still the same for the fans. It's still a great product. It's still family friendly. It's still affordable. That's all still there. And the better treatment for minor league players, the higher salaries, the better living conditions, all A-plus stuff that needed to happen. And, you know, how you get to that point is always what makes it sticky. But enough people were like, look, this needs to happen. Let's find a way to get it done. Minor league players unionized last year, and negotiations. There's officially a collective bargaining agreement now between minor league players who are under the Major League Baseball Players Association umbrella and the big league clubs now. So I think that's fantastic, and it's great for those guys, and it gives them a chance to not have to worry about some of the ancillary stuff they had to worry about before, about, you know, do I not eat before I come to the ballpark? Is the place I sleep going to have enough beds for everybody? Things like that. All that stuff is stuff that they don't have to worry about now. They can just worry about training, playing baseball to the best of their ability, and trying to maximize their baseball careers.
There's been a lot of positive feedback with the pitch clock, and, you know, as you mentioned, that started with the minors. So there were some people that were against it, but now they've kind of gotten on board and
I hope
they've
so.
gotten that positive feedback. So when you saw it go through the minors to begin with, before it made it to the major league level, did you see it as something that was going to be a plus for the game?
Absolutely. What was funny about it was we had a pitch clock before. They just didn't enforce it. We had a clock counting down. It's kind of like what you see at a Razorback game now in the SEC. They have the clock, but if it expires, well, the guy was close to me. They don't enforce it. 2 years ago, 2021, we're playing long games, but we don't care. We hadn't had baseball the summer before in the minor leagues. We were just happy to be playing games. But I kept hearing from my friends out in the California League, down at the single A level, about this strictly enforced pitch clock they were using and how awesome it was. And we're checking their game times, and they're playing games that are 12 to 7, and they're done in 2 hours and 20 minutes. And we're going, wow. And talk to guys, and they're like, this is outstanding. It's really on the umpires to enforce it, but the players get used to it. Then you fall into a rhythm. And we're like, all right, it's probably going to come to us. So it did last year, and it was just amazing. The difference it makes in terms of not necessarily pace of game, but pace of action, where the pitcher has to bring pitches. It brings some more strategy into it on how you do different things. It's fascinating, but it keeps the game moving, which I think is awesome. And now seeing it in the big leagues, those guys had all of spring training to get used to it. The minor league guys didn't last year. It took them a couple weeks in the season before they started enforcing it. The big league guys had spring training. I know it's been a real adjustment for some of those guys who have been in the big leagues 5, 8, 10, 12 years to adjust to it. But I would hope now a month in, they're into it. And even if they don't like it, they can see the positive effects it's had on the game, on fans, on the product in general. It's just awesome. And I think Theo Epstein, the former Cubs general manager who now works for Major League Baseball and is kind of spearheading a lot of these possible rule changes and was the lead on some of these implementations, came out this year in an interview and said, you don't go to an NFL game ever or a college football game and go, man, that play clock and those 2 delay of game penalties just ruined the experience for me. You don't go to a baseball game now and go, yeah, that 15-second pitch clock and those 2 pitch timer violations where they put an extra ball on the count just ruined the game. It's just part of the game now. And it doesn't feel like something that shouldn't be there. It's part of the evolution, and it's part of what has made baseball different than professional football and professional basketball and even hockey to an extent. I don't follow hockey that closely, but the NFL will make major rule changes every year or two, it seems like. The NBA makes major rule changes every year or two. MLB hadn't had anything. Baseball has been very reticent to change, and it doesn't mean that change is bad. It just means it's different. And I think we've seen through the implementation and experimentation of these rules in the minors last year, where we had all these things, and now what it's done in the big leagues this year, that it's been a good change. And I don't want to say necessarily will open up more change in Major League Baseball, but I think it'll at least get people to where they're more open-minded about seeing possible ideas and what might work.
Well, Stephen, we appreciate you coming in with us here today. So there's going to be a game tonight. I know it's been raining outside.
We're planning on it.
Yeah.
You'll look at the forecast. Weather's going to break. It was 6:30 first pitch. I think we're gonna go. And you know what? The radio broadcast will be on the air over on Buzz 2 no matter what.
That's right. 106.7 Buzz 2 against Northwest Arkansas Naturals.
Yes.
So how about that? A little battle of the state of Arkansas, battle of the natural state.
Yep. Taking on Little Brother this week.
There you go. And it's the Dog Days of Summer is going to be the highlight tonight.
Yep. Dogs can come out. $3 berm tickets if you bring your dog. It's a great time. Dogs love it. And I think people like bringing their dog out too.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely great. So, again, folks, you can listen right over there at 106.7 Buzz 2, our sister station. You can get out to the ballpark right there in North Little Rock at Dickey Stevens Park. Stephen Davis, the voice of the Arkansas Travelers. Really appreciate you joining us, Stephen. It's good to see you again. And I know we'll be having you in again here soon to talk more about the Travs.
Absolutely. Let's do it again anytime you guys need me.
All right. Appreciate it. We'll take a commercial break, our final break, and then we'll get to 3 and Out here on Out of Bounds. So stay with us. All right, it is time for 3 and Out. A few headlines, a few storylines, a few things that we got to dive into. But want to first tell you about Gwatney Chevrolet and how they have some great deals going on here in the month of May. We know Memorial Day weekend is upon us. We know you're going to be traveling a lot during the summer, having a good time doing it in a new vehicle from Gwatney Chevrolet right there in Jacksonville under the big American flag. They've been in business since 1957. And they got all the inventory on all your favorite Chevrolet vehicles. I personally drive a Chevrolet Silverado, and I love it. It is the best vehicle that I've ever had. And honestly, when I got it from Gwatney Chevrolet, I knew I was getting me a great vehicle. But every time I go back to get it serviced, whether it's for an oil change or just some maintenance, they all remember me, they treat me well, and they'll do the same for you. So no matter what your vehicle need may be, head over to Gwatney Chevrolet, 1301 TP White Drive in Jacksonville. You can also shop them online at GwatneyChevrolet.com. And I promise you won't be disappointed with Gwatney Chevrolet. All right, a few things going on as far as 3 and Out goes down. And I know we have some plenty of storylines to get into as well. But I wanted to mention that the NFL did release their international schedule. We didn't get really a chance to dive into that. I got kind of busy. But still having some interesting games. Where in week 4, you got the Falcons taking on the Jaguars in London. And then in week 5, you got the Jaguars taking on the Bills in Tottenham. You have the Ravens taking on the Titans in week 6 at Tottenham. And then the Dolphins taking on the Chiefs in Frankfurt. And then in week 10, the Colts taking on the Patriots also in Frankfurt. So 5 games happening internationally into the NFL. And from what it looks like, every single one of those games should be very intriguing because all those teams are looking to either get into the playoffs or maybe make a Super Bowl run, but should be a really great schedule as far as those games being in the international side of things.
Kenny Atkinson, the number 1 assistant for the Golden State Warriors, he's going to interview with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, we know he turned down the job with the Charlotte Hornets last season to return to the Golden State Warriors, but now it looks like if he's able to get this head coaching job with the Bucks, he will be moving on, but he's gotten the interview okayed now by the Warriors to talk to the Bucks.
All right. So Nick Nurse still in the running, though? Is that still a thing? Still happening? Right?
Oh, it's wide open. They're looking at all candidates.
Also, in some other news with Kyler Murray in the NFL, apparently, people talked about him and his, whether it's his hard work ethic and whether or not it was there or anything. But according to the reports, apparently Kyler Murray has been the first one in and last one out this past offseason, and is also vibing very well with the new Cardinals regime. So people are expecting some big things out of him. We know he got that big contract, and they didn't have the best of season last year, but new coaches, new everything coming in might be what Kyler Murray needs. And if that's the case, it's a very competitive division as it is, but they could be that team that gets back on track and make some noise in the NFL this year.
News on a couple of former Duke guys. Coach K, he's going to be a special advisor to basketball ops in the NBA. And then JJ Redick. He's an analyst right now, but he's interviewing for the Raptors head coaching job.
Interesting. Okay. Listen, I love JJ Redick as a commentator there on whether it's ESPN First Take or whatever he's on. I think he does a really good job. And I was actually, I'll admit this, I've mainly hated most Duke players. JJ Redick was about the only Duke player I didn't hate. Like, he was one that I actually liked when he was playing there. So, but he's glad to know that he's at least getting that job. And I don't know if he'll be great at Toronto or not, but they could do a lot worse. That's for sure, rather than JJ Redick.
He's interviewing, so he hadn't gotten the job, but he's interviewing.
Right. Kind of a crazy situation here, too, with Bo Jackson. We know about the great Bo Jackson. He was on W Jocks with Mac and Cube earlier, and he talked about how he had to have a special procedure now. And this is, again, scary thing because he's had hiccups for over a year. He has not stopped hiccuping for a year. I could not imagine what that's like. I could not imagine how scary that must be. Hopefully the surgery is a success, but dude, every day for a year, the hiccups, I hate them when I have them for 5 minutes. Couldn't imagine. So hopefully the surgery goes well and gets rid of it. I can't imagine having to live with that for a year as long as he has.
USC is added to their basketball roster. Bronny James made the announcement that he is going to USC, and now DJ Rodman, son of Dennis Rodman, is transferring to USC. He played the previous 4 seasons at Washington State. He averaged 10 and 6, so 10 points, 6 rebounds a game.
How about that? And speaking of the transfer portal, too, Julian Phillips, who was the 5-star small forward for Tennessee this past year, just entered into the transfer portal. So another big-time 5-star player, all getting crazy. And apparently there's going to be a lot more names coming out in college basketball, too. I thought this was crazy on a more entertainment note. Actually, I think came out yesterday, but still crazy to me today. Robert De Niro just popped out his 7th child. Not his grandchild, 7th child. He's 79 years old. Like, I don't want to be morbid about it, but I can't imagine just being like, well, because if he passes on here in the next 5 to 6 years or something like that, the kid's like, oh, what about my dad? Oh, well, he passed away due to old age. He was over in his 80s. Crazy thing, but kudos to old Bob De Niro going out there and still making it work at the age of 79.
With the NFL full schedule release coming out tomorrow, of course, there'll be more leaks earlier tomorrow, but the actual schedule comes out at 7 o'clock Central, so 8 o'clock Eastern. Now, Donna Kelsey, she may have leaked something already because she announced on Facebook, Chiefs-Eagles Week 2 at Arrowhead.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, she may have jumped the gun here, but I guess we'll find out tomorrow if she's got some correct information there or not. But appreciate everybody listening in to Out of Bounds today. For Joe Franklin, I am John Nabors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow afternoon. You better stay tuned, folks, because we got Drive Time Sports coming up next.